Now, Malaysia's King is urging politicians to stop playing games and focus on passing a budget to deal with the impact of COVID-19. He's met Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin just days after rejecting his request for emergency rule.
Stop playing with politics and focus on people's welfare. As Malaysia grapples with a surge in COVID-19 infections, that's the King's advice after meeting with embattled Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin. The young di-Pertuan Agong has called on lawmakers to ensure the budget is passed without disturbance when it's tabled in Parliament next week, so that Malaysia can focus on getting out of the economic rut caused by the pandemic.
Saya yakin Belanjawan 2021 tidak akan dipolitikkan dan mendapat sokongan jitu daripada ahli-ahli yang berhormat demi kemakmuran bersama. InsyaAllah, moga unjuran pemulihan ekonomi dapat dicapai menjelang tahun depan.
The latest political crisis was triggered when Mr. Muhyiddin failed to receive the King's approval to impose emergency rule. He since managed to secure support from key members of his coalition, including its largest party, UMNO. But it's unclear if the political truce will hold. Over 16 no-confidence motions have been submitted by lawmakers for next week's Parliament session.
Afifa Arifin joins us live for more on this. Afifa, are lawmakers likely to listen to the King's call to put politics aside for now?
Well, constitutionally, the King has the right to advise, to encourage, or to warn both sides of the political divide. And that's exactly what the King has did, exercised his right twice in as many weeks. So earlier today, the palace issued a statement where, as we heard, the King, Sultan Abdullah Riyatuddin, has called on all lawmakers to stop the political squabbling and give their full support to the budget. He said that it must be passed for the sake of the people and to aid the recovery of an economy that's been hit very hard by the COVID-19 pandemic. And analysts say that, this clearly indicates, this reminder indicates that the King feels that it's important for the budget to be passed seamlessly. And at this point, it seems that all of the MPs have somewhat heeded, the King's advice based on all of the official statements that the different political parties have released. So all political parties across the spectrum have indeed agreed with the King to stop the politicking, to have the ceasefire, and to give their full support to the budget and to focus on handling the COVID-19 pandemic that the country currently faces right now. But observers say that, in Malaysia, culturally, politicians will still heed the advice of the King. It is unlikely that they will defy what the King has said. They will also listen to him. But they also do note that the final say, really lies with the MPs. They need to see what's in the budget, whether the Prime Minister had consulted them, whether some of the demands have been met. And those are things that will be crucial for them to decide whether or not to support the budget. So that's really when we will have to see how things play out. We do know that the budget will be tabled in Parliament on November 6th, but there will be 3 weeks of debates and discussions before voting begins on November 23rd. And that's really a crucial period for Perikatan Nasional administration as well as Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin, because that's really when they will have to lobby for as many MPs to back the budget as they can.
Afifa, perhaps you could just expand a bit more and just tell us how crucial is it for the Prime Minister to get the budget passed? And if it doesn't get passed, then what happens?
Well, the simple answer is that it's very crucial because by convention, if the budget fails to pass through, then it shows that the government no longer holds the majority support of lawmakers in Parliament. If the budget is not passed by a majority vote, then it will be difficult for Mr. Muhyiddin to still remain in power. And observers say that many will then put pressure on him to resign or to step down from the premiership. It's also very crucial for the budget to be passed because any sort of delay will cause government functions to be disrupted and allocations will be delayed. And this is important, a most important budget now than ever, because this is the time that resources need to be channeled urgently and adequately to the necessary areas, like in healthcare, for example, or to have more economic stimulus packages, given that the country is facing its third wave of COVID-19 pandemic. And it's also also trying to revive a battered economy. So what observers are saying right now is that the Perikatan Nasional administration will really have to get its act together internally. They have to consolidate support, and this could mean negotiating with UMNO, who, as we know, have created some sort of political drama over the last couple of days. So maybe the Perikatan Nasional administration will have to concede to some of UMNO's demands. But Perikatan Nasional, Mr. Muhyiddin and his cabinet will also need to try to speak to the opposition, to bring them into the conversation and really persuade them to support the budget for the greater good of the country.